The first mission of Black Ops actually caused a bit of controversy in Cuba, where the media wasn't too happy with the fact that the story opens with your character gunning down Castro, or rather, an impersonator. The newspaper Cuba Debate actually wrote a hit piece on the game about how video game violence, as seen in Black Ops, would radicalize the youth into becoming violent psychopaths. I don't know about you, but I played this game on the Wii when I was 5, and I still haven't made any moves on any dictators. So a lot of you might recall this memorable mountain of a man, Sergei, from the mission Vorkuta. But did you know the game was originally going to explain why he doesn't talk?
Sergei mocked Dragovich in front of the wrong people. For his insolence, Dragovich cut out his tongue with a rusted sickle.
These voice lines are still in the game's files, but they were never actually set up to play in the mission. Ever noticed how, during the Pentagon meeting, the camera focuses on this smokin' blonde for a second? She's actually got a name and a little side story to her, which you can find if you take a look at the computer terminal behind the main menu, where you can find this email from Weaver, in which he talks about setting up a date between Mason and that aforementioned smokin' blonde, whose name is revealed as Sarah. But that's not all. If we do a bit of unauthorized access to Weaver's emails, we can find a message from Sarah and from Mason, talking about how Mason completely bungled the date and horrified the poor lady by mumbling about REZNOV's grand scheme the entire time. And as a little bonus fact, if you want to sign back in as Mason, his password is literally password. This interesting portrait of a man named Hank Kiersey shows up in the Zombies map 5, as well as the campaign mission USDD,
Distinguished Hero.
Or if you're an intel hunter, this article found in the mission Payback. Turns out, Hank Kiersey is a real person and Marines veteran, who served as a military advisor during the making of Black Ops, helping keep the game setting realistic and somewhat historically accurate. A lot of you might remember Woods as one of the more memorable characters in Black Ops, but how many of you noticed the 115 tattoo on his arm? It's a little hard to see in normal gameplay, but this reference was one of the first times that the campaign and zombie storylines crossed streams.
I found a piece of the meteor!
Anyone who's experimented with the game's created class knows that there's a couple different models of the ACOG scope and red dot, depending on if your weapon is Soviet, American, British, or in the AUG's case, if it has its own proprietary scope. But did you also know that there's different types of grenade launcher? A lot of players recognize the venerable M203, or its Russian cousin, the GP25. But if you were to put the grenade launcher on the AK-74U, you'll get this really unusual suppressed grenade launcher, which is completely unique to this weapon alone. And the suppressor doesn't even work. Most people know that your teammate Bowman is actually played by the singer Ice Cube, and a few of you might also know that he lent his voice to the SOG announcer in multiplayer.
Cobra standing by.
But something really cool about this is that if you were to be, frankly, a dog shit teammate in hardcore mode, Ice Cube himself actually curses you out and threatens you when you get kicked from the match.
Get that son of a bitch out of here before I kill him myself!
Remember this little exchange from the mission The Defector?
Bowman, what's he saying?
Kill the civilians.
Well, as it turns out, that was a bold-faced lie. If you take a closer listen, you can hear that the PA announcement is just complete gibberish. None of this is actual Vietnamese. Awkward. Anyone who's played Black Ops remembers this epic jump in the mission Numbers, where you land on a mattress and hear this little peaceful tune on the TV right as you get a moment's respite. The music turns out to be a bit of stock music by Universal, and here's what it sounds like in high quality. The Grim Reaper launcher has a hidden feature that only works in the campaign. Normally, if you get it out of a care package, you can fire each rocket one at a time. But try this next time you have it in the campaign. press the hold breath button and you'll see this ticker by the scope move from 1 all the way to 4. This actually selects how many rockets to fire at a time, which can absolutely devastate enemies if you go for the volley of 4. It's probably for the better that they didn't add this to multiplayer. If you dig into the sound folder for Black Ops, you can find this really weird audio called muppet.wav, which was recorded by the lead audio engineer Colin Ayers.
Sorry.
Clearly, Colin loved his job. If you've already finished the campaign, you know that Mason's interrogator turned out to be none other than his CIA handler, Hudson. But you can actually figure that out way ahead of time in the intro to the mission numbers.
We can do this all day. We got plenty of windows.
Or you can give us what we want and we guarantee your safety.
What about Dragovich? Do you remember him? Give us what we want, we'll guarantee your safety.
So, between missions, Mason was seeing a therapist named Adrienne Smith. And if you were to gain unauthorized access to the emails of the soldier Brooks, you can find a rather spicy letter from Smith addressed to him. So, nothing crazy here, just some tender lovin' between two consenting adults, until you read Brooks's response, which you can find by getting into Smith's account using her cat's name as the password. Turns out, Brooks is a married man, and his wife had just about found out he'd been two-timing her, leaving Brooks to make the difficult decision to prioritize the missus. Keep in mind this is all happening behind the scenes, while this dude is literally throwing people off of catwalks. The campaign of Black Ops has a couple of useful tips if you die from environmental hazards, mostly all to the effect of, don't stand near things that go boom. But one easily missable death message is so wildly unlikely to be found that it deserves its own honorable mention. If you were to run over to the Huey at the start of the mission crash site and jump up to get your face whacked by the tail rotor, it immediately gives you a mission fail with the incredibly helpful hint, watch your head. Everyone knows you can find some pretty cool stuff in the computer terminal behind Mason's interrogation chair, like secret zombies maps, concept art, and even the entire first game of Zork. But here's one that a lot of people missed. Try typing in the name Alicia, which opens up a chat with the titular virtual therapist. While you're probably not going to get an accurate psychoanalysis from this fairly incompetent random response generator, Alicia is actually a reference to the real-life program known as Eliza, which is known as one of the first ever AIs for its ability to actually ask relevant questions. Well, maybe Alicia gets one right once in a while.
REZNOV's
Alive in Black Ops 1. Probably. Let's look deeper. If we take all of these numbers and bits of phonetic alphabet that show up in the scrolling intro text of every campaign level, and we start by spelling out all the letters of the phonetic alphabet first, we get the phrase REZNOV is dead. But here's where it gets weird. If we then decode these hyphenated numbers using the A1Z26 cipher, we get the phrase, or is he dead? There was who, no body, is not, he says he is. This already opens a couple of questions, but there's even more evidence that all is not as it seems. Let's get into the computer terminal behind the main menu, and let's hack into the former President Kennedy's emails, where we can find this letter by a stranger named John Trent, which just says,
Victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice.
Sent a day before Kennedy was assassinated. Switch over to Jason Hudson's email account, where you can find another letter from Trent, referencing Mason and telling him to pay close attention to the coming Friday. Once again, the day of JFK's death. Not long after, Trent tips off Hudson that what had happened was the result of Dragovich's brainwashing, and mentions that of the two men to escape Vorkuta a month prior, Hudson knows one, but the other just died. The next letter to Hudson from Trent uses the Ascension numbers code that we spend most of the game trying to track down. Now, I'm no code cracker, but Call of Duty Wiki helped me out with this one, revealing the words, going on to tell Hudson to look for a woman by the name of Evelyn Cross. We never actually learn a whole lot about this individual, other than the fact that her portrait is in Hudson's computer files, and that she sent a sinister email to President Kennedy with a warning of imminent danger, just like John Trent did. But the last we ever hear of John Trent is 2 days after the campaign mission Redemption, where Mason finally puts an end to Dragovich and his grand scheme, and the letter simply asks Hudson to tell Mason, this time it's freedom for both of us. Is this mystery man actually REZNOV gone undercover after escaping Vorkuta? Who can say? Even their names almost sound the same. Trent REZNOV? Trent REZNOV? Trent REZNOV? Trent Reznor?